Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Del Rio City Council. It's Tuesday, July 24th, 6 o'clock. We have the roll call, please.
Councilmember Buckley?
Here.
Councilmember Littell? Here. Councilmember Allen?
Here.
Vice Mayor Clark? Here. Mayor Edelman?
Here. I would ask Councilman Buckley if he would do the honor of leading us to pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A couple of announcements this evening. We have Colonel Greg Ford, the Garrison Commander of the Defense Language Institute, in the back. Colonel Ford, would you stand up so everybody can see? He's incognito in civilian clothes tonight. He's going to join us. He's already hit the ground running since he's taken over as Garrison Commander out of the Florida Abuse Authority. We have Veterans Issues Advisory Committee where he's a critical member there, and he's really getting involved with the community. We appreciate the relationship the city has with the Garrison. 314th Air Force Tactical Squadron there works hand in glove with us with volunteer projects and all. So, Colonel, I appreciate all the support you've given us. You know what you want to say? No? Okay, good. Also, I've got a last-minute announcement, if I could, please, for the forbearance. Beth Benoit, there you are. I'm sorry, you moved. Beth's husband, Steve, was honored by the National Park Service. I'd like to read this to you. This is one of our Del Rio residents. Give you an idea of what outstanding people we have. Dateline, Big Sur. Steve Benoit started his volunteer work in the Big Sur backcountry 32 years ago while working for the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. He was recently selected out of the U.S. Forest Service 115,000 volunteers for the Enduring Service Volunteer of the Year Award, #1 out of 115,000. Steve has spent more than 12,500 hours volunteering in the Monterey District, including 400 hours last year. Again, that's outstanding. We're just one member in Del Rio is doing all this for the Forest Service. Outstanding. We have a round of applause. Behind every great man is a great woman. So thank you for showing up. Okay. We'll start off with the staff report, city manager report first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief Point and I attended the Citizens Action Group meeting earlier this month, and staff thanked the Citizens Action Group for a $4,000 donation towards the city's new lawnmower. We discussed continuing support on community beautification projects, and also thanked Scott Donaldson and George Jackshaw for their help in procuring a utility sink and table for Old Town Hall. And city staff is working to install those in the back room now. City team also met with City of Pacific Grove staff to discuss their experience with administering their short-term rental ordinance. It was a terrific meeting. They were very forthcoming with lessons learned that they've had over the last several years with managing STRs. As a result of the meeting, staff developed a timeline that includes sending a letter to each home in the city, notifying them of the new ordinance and the need to obtain an STR license by November 1st. Staff is developing the license form. Will begin issuing STR licenses August 1st. So we're transitioning into the new ordinance. City and airport staffs continue to discuss the potential consolidation of police departments based on the last presentation of council, and we look forward to bringing it back to council as soon as it's ready. TAMC held a Highway 218 corridor study workshop in Seaside. Councilmember Littell and I attended along with 20 residents of Seaside and Delray Oaks. Kindling Board provided solutions for various safety challenges along the corridor. We need to continue to work with them to ensure that we're getting the right focus on Delray Oaks safety concerns on 218, but so far it's been a terrific study with public engagement. Von Blacktop completed striping of our newly paved streets last week. They will restripe this week, and that'll complete our slurry seal project for the streets. And lastly, Monterey Bay Defense Alliance held a breakfast Friday morning at the Monterey Conference Center. Councilmember Allen and I attended. The event was well attended by elected officials, city managers, business leaders, and military commanders. Speaker series, which included Congressman Panetta speaking as well, allows us to highlight our national security sector's value to the region and build constituencies to advocate on its behalf at the local, state, and federal levels. That concludes my report.
Thank you. I'd like to change the order of the council reports this evening. for what will become obvious soon. Sort of bittersweet evening this evening. Wayne, you want to go first, please?
Oh, thank you. To Jerry's point, it is a bittersweet announcement I'd like to make tonight, and that is I've actually accepted a new job. And so in the space I work in, there's not many jobs doing what I do, and this one happens to be up near San Francisco. So as a result, I'll be maybe needing to leave Delray Oaks. And it's obviously bittersweet because it's an outstanding opportunity for me, for my family, but obviously sad to leave what is just an amazing community, and I think has only become even more amazing over the 15 years I've been here. We've had just a wonderful time. It's been great working with this council. We've enacted we've had I don't know how many meetings in the last 2 years. I think it probably equals a 4-year term just in the productive meetings we've held. We've seen the community become very active and engaged with the council. The police force, I've seen frequently out in the community, just engaging with people. It's just been an amazing time for Delray Oaks. So very sad to leave at this point, right? There's going to be, I think, just tremendous growth over the next several years. I will be back frequently to see it. Unfortunately, I won't be able to observe from the dais, but I will be out in the community, keeping in touch with everyone. And I want to thank everyone for being so supportive during my years here. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. We will honor Councilmember Buckley next the city council meeting with the appropriate honors, and we'll do the next one the next month. And meanwhile, I'd like just to deviate a little bit. If any of the council members would like to say something very quickly about Councilmember Buckley's service at the appropriate this time. Vice Mayor Clark.
I just want to thank you for your service and thank you for bringing our community together, and I think you've really grown. And in the last year and a half, it's been fantastic, and I feel like I'm not only losing a council member, but a good friend. And I wish you well, and I know that you'll do fine wherever you go.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes, I'd like to thank you, Randy, for all you've done for us. We really appreciate it, and you will be missed terribly. Congratulations on your new position, and I know you'll be successful, and I hope you and your family are happy on your new location. And thank you again for serving our wonderful community.
Councilmember.
Fair winds, following seas. Thank you.
And I'll also, I'll second everything everybody said this morning. What I really appreciate about you is your enthusiasm and your stick-to-itiveness, identifying issues that your constituents really care about, and working 24 hours a day to get it done. You truly are transparent. You truly are the link in between the citizens and the council. You make major contributions. In the 2 years you've been here, you've done more than a lot of council members have done in 6 or 7 or 8 years. Again, thank you very much. So let's go with Councilmember Howard on the off-year report.
Thank you. The two boards that I serve on, the Monterey One Water and the Monterey Regional Waste Management District boards, are both struggling with recognizing that the capital improvement projects have been delayed over time because of finances. During the recession period, things weren't done. So right now, both agencies are struggling with how do we take care of our capital projects moving forward. In the case of the Monterey Regional Waste Management District, we're looking at $50 million of projects over the next 5 years. 40 million of those 50 million are mandated by the state, our federal government, so we have to do them. It's not an option. So it's not a question of do we delay doing these projects, do we postpone doing these projects, we have to do these projects. So now we're, as a board, looking at what is the appropriate way to finance these projects. We can issue revenue bonds, essentially. Market rates right now are probably continue to be as low as we're going to see, certainly in my lifetime. So we're looking at, is it the best thing to do is to maximize the amount of money that we can borrow at this point in time, or do we finance as we go along, which would mean significantly raising rates. Of course, I'm in favor of the bond. Another interesting thing that's gone on is if you've followed anything at all with recycling, the world of recycling has changed quite a bit. The Chinese have gotten very difficult when it comes to dealing with recycling, and most of the plastics go to the Chinese for recycling. They've gotten very tough on their standards on what's acceptable. And if you've gotten a notice, you should have gotten a notice, things like the film plastics, which we were recycling, are not being recycled now. So please take a look at the green waste information that comes out, green waste recovery. Try and understand what they're telling you is recyclable and what isn't. Put it in the right bins. That helps. That certainly helps. With the Monterey One Water, as I said, the capital projects are out there that need to be done. We have a very old infrastructure now that we were not able to maintain in some respects over to the 2000 to 2010 period. And so now we're going to have to do a little bit of catch-up there. What does all this mean in terms of you and your rates? We have had historically pretty low rates here for our sewer bills. We're going to continue to have probably middle-of-the-road rates when compared to other cities and regions around California. But you just have to brace for the fact that rates are going to go up. And that again is not this is not going into increases in salary for employees other than wage rate increases that are consistent with CPI. This is going to go into capital projects. We have to do these things in order to keep our sanitation system clean and safe and make sure we're not polluting the bay or polluting our homes. Yes, the Monterey Bay Defense Alliance was a very interesting meeting to attend. The retired admiral that spoke on climate change and the effect on the oceans. It was a terrific talk. Anybody that attended that, it's an eye-opener. We have to do things, we are doing things, and we continue to do things to try and keep our oceans from getting any warmer than they are or any more polluted. Finally, at the end of August, we'll have Representative Panetta will be speaking at the Monterey County Business Council monthly luncheon on, I think it's not a monthly luncheon, it's an unusual luncheon on August 31st. So members of the council are invited to attend this. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Dennis. Councilmember Lincoln.
Thank you. I attended the Seaside Sanitation where we approved the amendment to the capital improvement program for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019. This was necessary because of emergency repairs to some of the pipes and moving the money around to accommodate what needs to happen now. And we appointed the director and alternate to represent Seaside County Sanitation with the California JPA Insurance Authority. Attended the Community Human Services board meeting. There is one program that they had, Family to Family, which is no longer being funded by grants. The board approved the hiring of a new position, and that position is commercially sexually exploited children specialist, domestic violence group facilitator. This position is funded for only 1 year, but it's looking very positive for an extension of 2 years. And the meeting was followed by their annual luncheon. It was well attended by volunteers, board members, and staff members. In addition, there was a resident of the Genesis House, which is for adults 18 and older, recovering from alcoholism or drug abuse. And they showed a video interviewing a couple of the residents, and then also a young lady who is a resident and who was on the video told her story. And she was there with her little tiny baby of a month and a half old. And it was very, very emotional that it just reinforced the good that Community Human Services is doing for the community. I attended the Mayor and Council Members Forum, and the sessions were very interesting and beneficial. Speakers at the opening session, as well as the different panels, were excellent. And MST, as an alternate, I attended the MST board meeting where we authorized the contract for funding of CSU and the transit services. And we also accepted a total of $577,000 plus from CSU Lumbee for transit services for the 2018-2019 academic year. And we authorized staff to conduct public hearings regarding potential service reductions, fare increases, and pending repeal of the traffic funding sources. New board chair was announced. Michael Bear, who's the mayor of King City, and Vice Mayor Tony Barrera of City of Seaside. And our Christian Clark will be on the administration committee. And we received Monterey Bay area feasibility study of bus operations on State Route 1 shoulders for the buses. The presentation was given by Lisa Reinheimer. Recognition and special presentations, Tony Barrera, service of the chair, Carl Wolf, employee of the month, and at the next meeting, our Kristen Clark will be recognized for her service on the MST board of 15 years. Congratulations in advance. And RTA, Regional Taxi Authority, as alternate, I attended that and received an update from staff as well as the July 2017, June 2018 report from the RTA administrator. It was reported that the number of permits issued to taxi drivers is down once again, and that, of course, is because of Lyft and Uber. And the airport taxi pickups are down also because of Lyft and Uber. Currently, there are only 2 taxi services approved for pickups at the airport, and that is Yellow Cab and Central Coast Cab. We reviewed the fiscal year 2017 audit and reimbursement of $31,000 plus to MST for RTA expenses, which were incurred during the fiscal year 2017. And we adopted the 2019 budget. TAMC workshop, Dean already reported on that, but I enjoyed that very much. It was interesting. And Del Rio Citizens Action Group, Dean also reported on that. I will say that it's just going to be such a pleasure having a new sink in the facility where you can at least wash your hands. It's large enough. And so that's going to make it so much easier when we have our different events there. And we finalized the arrangements for the city garage sale to be held this Saturday, the 28th. And George Jackshaw is in charge of that. And we hope you all have lots of goodies out there for sale. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you very much. Vice Mayor Clark.
Well, obviously, I didn't attend the last MST meeting. I was out of town, and next month every August there is no MST meeting, so there won't be one next time. I did go to the community power meeting that we had the day after our last city council meeting, where we heard from several people, and I did not interact. I just came so that I could hear what was being said and try and gather back some information. There's a lot of you here, I believe, that are for the community power section of our meeting tonight. And I wish you would have all come to that meeting because it was very informative, and I think it's important for everybody to have all the information under their belt.
Anything else on your needs?
No additional items to report.
You haven't changed your mind.
There's a lot on the outside. A couple things real fast. June 27th, attended the Transportation Agency meeting in Salinas to approve the 2018 Regional Transportation Plan. On the 28th, attended the Florida Veterans Issues Advisory Committee meeting where I'm the chair. Progress is being made on the stage 2 for in-ground burials at the California Central Coast Veterans Cemetery. Right now, they have common burials only for ashes, but we're moving forward. So eventually, if we get California state government to cooperate with funds and so forth, we should start in-ground burials hopefully in the not too distant future. So stay tuned on that. That's a very important thing we're trying to do. July 5th, we had a special city council meeting here where we basically approved the new green waste rate schedule to make up a long time. We had no rate increases whatsoever, so we're now struggling to catch up to keep the rates as low as we can, but at least give a reasonable rate of return to the green waste. Again, the Del Rio Citizens Action Group meeting was mentioned on the 9th, and myself, City Manager Pat, and Chief Moyne attended. Basically getting ready for the garage sale. If anybody doesn't know garage sale George, raise your hand. He's the man in charge. If you don't realize, there's only the best, if you look on Google, there are only 4, maybe 5 cities in the entire state of California that have citywide garage sales, and we're one of them. And it was George Jacksha about 18 years ago that came up with the idea, let's have a citywide garage sale. We're small enough, we have a citizens action group that's energetic enough where we pull it together and we make the entire city becomes a parking lot where each neighbor exchanges junk with their neighbor. And every other year you get your junk back, and you get your junk. So anyhow, what time to start, George? 8 o'clock until about 2 o'clock. People will be out there driving around at 6 o'clock looking for bargains. So you might want to start doing about 6. So I highly recommend you do that. Okay, we had an ad hoc committee meeting at Fora. We had State Senator Bill Monning that was there. We're talking about the Fora, the Florida Reuse Authority, which remember goes away in June 2020. We've got about 2 years left. What happens after that? We're trying to work that out. We have responsibilities for the nation's clearance called ESCA. Okay, we think there might be a joint powers authority there. We have 4 regional transportation commitments that may go to TAMC. But if it goes to TAMC, the Florida board has priorities called the Capital Improvement Program. Will the Florida board keep the Capital Improvement Program intact, or will they want to mess with it? That could be a stumbling block there. We also have what's called the Habitat Conservation Plan. Right now, the HCP, to monitor the species out there on the old 27,000 acres of flora, is going to cost $40 million. We don't have it. So you have what's happening, there's 5 land use jurisdictions, Monterey County, Seaside, Del Rio, and Marina, 5, have to come up with $40 million to take care of the habitat out there. The other 8 non-land use jurisdictions that are not here, they're part of the Florida board, are going to go away in 2 years. So we're working out right now, what can we do? We're also trying to work out, Del Rio has been, shall we say, magnanimous since Florida formed, and we got the base reuse plan around 1994. We've had capital improvement programs to get things done out here. All the other cities, using Marina for the most part, and sometimes Seaside, you got a lot of their programs done, their roads built, and so forth. Del Rio has been delayed. Right now, we have 1 CIP going. We have South Boundary Road. If you go down South Boundary Road, everything to the north of that is part of our 360 acres. We want to do a sustainable, low-density development to bring more tax revenue coming in here. So we're trying to get South Boundary Road upgraded with sewer, with water, with fiber optic, with everything we can get done in one fell swoop. We're also trying to get an intersection done between South Boundary Road and General General Boulevard, and plus extend the General General Boulevard all the way down to Highway 218. That is our capital improvement program to help the traffic flow, the level of service, A rather than F where everything's gridlock, and so we can start a little bit of a development out there. Unfortunately, we have forces out there that are trying to kill anything we try to do. This last board meeting, Friday before last, there were 2 items on the agenda. One was to take down the old stockade in Marina. Okay, it's an eyesore, but it has to come down. There's problems with asbestos and everything else. I fought on behalf of that. I've always fought 13 to 0, fund it and take it down. It's not gonna be gone. We're taking care of that. Here we are, Del Rio is trying to help Marine out. Comes out for Del Rio Oaks, we just get the intersection that's always been planned between South Dodger Road and General J. Moore Boulevard. And what happens? One of the Marina reps says, no, not only no, but hell no, and fights us tooth and nail. Finally, after being very forceful or whatever, made a roll call vote, it was 12 to 1 for Del Rio Oaks for my position. The problem is, it's the third time it's happened. And what happened before, if you don't get a unanimous vote there, in the actual bylaws, you can't have anything done until you have a second vote a month later. So everything we're doing right now, the game plan, it appears to be delay and delay and delay, so we can stop Del Rio Oaks from getting anything done at Fora until the clock runs out in 2020. We have the city manager on the admin committee, I'm on the executive committee along with the other committees there. We're doing what we can to make sure we move forward so we get our fair share of a little bit of development out there. Out of 27,000 acres, we have 365. Of those 365, we're only looking at a small portion to develop. And even that's too much for some people out there. So what we do here is not just sitting up here, for 1 hour. We represent, not only myself, but everybody else on these other committees to take a look and try to use our influence to help Del Rio Oaks' position so we're not going to be taken advantage of by the larger cities. And thus far, you've got a team up here that's doing a good job. So anyhow, that's my report on that. And there's no transportation agency meeting tomorrow morning. It's a summer break, just like with MST. And that's the extent of my report. Okay, next we have the consent agenda. Item 5, any member of the council wishing to pull any items in the consent agenda for questions or discussion? Seeing none, out of the public, any member of the public wishing to pull any items from the consent agenda for questions or discussion? Seeing none, back to the council, entertain a motion.
Yes, so moved.
Okay, motion approval of the consent agenda, and we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you very much, unanimous. Appreciate it. Next, we have the new business, one item. This is not a CEQA project for guidelines, Article 20, Section 15378. The issue is direct staff to negotiate a contract with King City and Power Community Choice Irrigation Energy Program. I'll turn this over to our city manager for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I get started with the presentation, I'd just like to recognize a few folks who are in our audience today. Mr. Steve Adams is here with us, city manager for King City. Steve, thanks for coming up. And Mr. Dennis Verment, the CEO of Pilot Power, is also with us. Thanks for being here. Mayor and Council, as the Vice Mayor mentioned, on Thursday, June 27th, the city held a public workshop on CCAs. Approximately 10 residents attended the workshop. The presentations, which are attached here, included a staff introduction for city priorities, which are listed in the staff report. Introduction to energy markets, presented by one of our residents, John Gagliardi. Presentations by Monterey Bay Community Power and King City Community Choice Program, as well as an analysis and critique of CCAs. Following the presentations, there was a 90-minute Q&A period, which was pretty robust and continued for another 40 minutes in the parking lot. I found it all valuable. Staff presented the city's priorities as the following 4 priorities: reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, reduction of energy costs for consumers, deriving revenue for city energy programs, and risk management. What I'll do is go forward to the comparison between Monterey Bay Community Power and King City Community Power. Essentially, we looked in the presentation. I've looked at those criteria as a comparison, essentially on what kind of energy portfolio Monterey Bay Community Power and King City Community Power both plan to provide for their customers. Choices that are very, very high in renewable energy and potentially 100% renewable energy without the use of greenwashing or renewable energy certificates to achieve that. And I'll just say this whole area of energy for the public's good is wonderfully complex. It is not something that most city governments are involved in, and we've taken a fair amount of time to try to learn about it and share it with the public and learn from the public. And I look forward to continuing that process. This is not anything to be rushed into. So in terms of the composition of the portfolio, the Monterey Bay Community Power and King City Community Power are going to buy energy on the open market for use. They both have private entities. In the case of King City Community Power, it is Pilot Power. In the case of Monterey Bay Community Power, it is a private company that will buy the power from the California Public Utility market for use. That they buy it at the wholesale level, and then it'll be sold at the retail level to customers. The rates at which Monterey Bay Community Power and King City Community Power will charge their customers are comparable. They're below PG&E rates, and all of this is projected into the future, subject to change with all of these wonderful caveats, but just trying to get a decent comparison is what I'm trying to do for the council tonight. The offerings will be at below PG&E rates in both cases. The pricing, though, is different. Monterey Bay Community Power offers their pricing with a 3% rebate. That rebate comes at the end of the year to the customers. King City Community Power is going to offer simply a lower monthly charge for power rather than an end-of-year rebate. The net to the consumer is very, very roughly the same. Both Monterey Bay Community Power and King City Community Power are going to derive additional revenue from the sale of the energy to their residents. What they do with that power, or with that revenue, is different and decided by their governing bodies. So in the case of Monterey Bay Community Power, they will decide what to do with that additional revenue using their governing board and their structure that they've established. In the case of King City Community Power, the governing board will be the King City City Council and the Delray Oaks City Council, as dictated in a contract that we have not negotiated yet. So that structure has yet to be defined in terms of the relationship between our city and the city of King. But how that revenue gets spent will be decided by those governing bodies. In one case, a nonprofit board that represents 3 counties in all those cities. In our case, 2 city councils. Will the communities get direct investment? In the case of Monterey Bay Community Power, there is no commitment on the part of Monterey Bay Community Power that we will have direct investment in the city of Delray Oaks. They will, of course, make the best decisions that their board deems with that money to spend it in the Tri-County area, whether it's to build new renewable generation capability in the Tri-County area or some other use, potentially additional rebates, whatever it may be. But that's up to them to decide. We would have a very, very small voice on that Monterey Bay Community Power board. 1/4 of 1/11 of a seat. On the King City side, the structure is that the revenue comes back to the cities, and the initial pro forma with Pilot Power in King City indicates somewhere in the neighborhood of $60,000 would be coming back to the city of Delray Oaks annually for use by the city council for energy programs. That could be, again, in the form of additional savings directly back to the residents, or it could be in the form of incentivizing installation of solar panels, or it could be matching money for grants to try to build a solar generation capability for road parcel. That is open to council and community input. Risk. The risks of joining Monterey Bay Community Power include two important aspects. One is the, as stated in the JPA language, the Joint Powers Agreement language, any entity that leaves Monterey Bay Community Power is liable for the cost of selling the power purchase agreements that were procured to service the customers in that city. And so there is a liability contained in the JPA agreement if you leave at a future date. The other liability, and that liability does not currently exist in the agreement between King City and Pilot Power, and we would negotiate it to not exist in a contract between Delray Oaks, King City, and Pilot Power. So that's one difference in risk that we've identified. All of this depends on the negotiation of the contract with King City. The other risk factor is the charge that CCAs, both Monterey Bay Community Power and King City and every other CCA in the state, pay PG&E or other investor-owned utilities for use of PG&E's transmission infrastructure, the power lines. That charge, called a PCIA charge, a power charge and difference adjustment charge, is set by the CPUC, the California Public Utilities Commission, and it's PG&E and other investor-owned utilities are trying very, very hard to change that charge. They're trying to get it raised by the CPUC, which would have a direct impact on all CCAs in the state and their viability, because it would force the CCAs to absorb that cost and ultimately to pass it on to their customers to stay in business. And so, depending on how the CPUC acts, and we have no crystal ball into when the CPUC will act or how they will act in terms of raising the rate, it could potentially cause customers' rates to go up and customers to leave CCAs, which would then start to have a potentially catastrophic effect on CCAs. So how we articulate that, so that's one reason why you could foresee our customers, our residents, and ultimately our city leaving Monterey Bay Community Power at some point in the future, depending on how the markets change. Depending on how we define that risk in the contract with King City, we may be able to mitigate and initial indications in talking with Pilot Power and King City are that we will be able to mitigate the risk of leaving the CCA in the future and not having to pay for the difference between the rate at which the power purchase agreements were purchased versus what they may be sold for at any given time when they're not needed by our customers because we've left. So that's a very brief rundown of a fairly complex subject. We had a terrific public workshop on this matter. The request by staff tonight, following your questions and public input, is that if it's the council's will that we proceed with this negotiation, that we be directed to do so, enter into negotiations with King City and Pilot Power, with the understanding that we are simply negotiating a contract to determine some apples-to-apples comparison with the JPA agreement with Monterey Bay Community Power, and then return at a future date if we're able to reach terms that are agreeable to the city, at least at my level, for your consideration at a later date. So that concludes my presentation. Any more questions?
Yeah, we'll start off with council member questions or comments. Dennis, do you want to start off on this?
Sure. First of all, this PCIA is a very unknown risk to us all. It's very unknown. I remember reading when we were doing this research into the Monterey Bay Community Power auction a little over a year ago. The article from the Los Angeles Times addressing the fact that the California Public Utilities Commission authorized or allowed the public power companies to build these power generation plants. This goes back to the brownouts in the early 2000s. The article specifically called out a plant that was built somewhere in the Sacramento area that has now been closed. And this was a $500 million project. The plant's now been closed because there isn't enough demand for the power. Well, under California Public Utility laws, the power companies are able to recover community choice aggregation has not, well, I think the claim is that, and this is math, people, it's just math. We're going to sit down and the ratepayer advocacy branch of the California Public Utility Commissions, they're a bunch of number crunchers, they're going to sit down and go over the numbers very carefully from public power utilities, and we're all going to have to pay more money, period. Doesn't matter if you're in the CCA or not, you're going to have to pay additional fees. So we don't know what the impact is going to be on the CCAs. Now, I do have a question for the city manager. We have probably a little over 600 potential customers for a CCA here in Delray Oaks. I don't know what the number is in King City. King City have potential power customers?
Yeah, 3,800.
3,800. I assume that under the rules of the CCA, it doesn't matter whether we go King City or Monterey Bay Community Power, that citizens will have the option to opt out. They can stay with PG&E, elsewhere. So we don't know how many customers we're going to deliver. We don't know whether it's a tenth of the customers in Delray Oaks, 90%, 100%, 50%, we don't know. That, to me, is another risk, because obviously the whole idea is to have a large number of customers that you can leverage your buying power with. So I'm not sure that we're going to reap the benefits from this advertised benefit. There's two risks. I think the biggest risk is the PCIA. The second biggest risk is how many customers are in the pool. So those are my two biggest concerns, and I am not very favorable of making a decision to go with the CCA. If what the direction that we provide is to negotiate so that we get better definition of terms, but not necessarily, it'll ultimately be the council's decision as to whether or not we enter into an agreement or contract. I'm in favor of negotiating so that we have specific numbers to look at and do a better job of defining the risk. As you mentioned, we have no idea when the CPUC is going to make this decision on the PCIA. To me, this is such a big unknown that I am not willing to put our city and our residents at risk in either power agreement until that's decided.
Any other things? So, thank you, Councilmember Allian. So we have slightly over 800 customers in our city, and you're absolutely right. We don't have any hard way of knowing how many would transfer. There is a bit of a misnomer in the buying power. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Dennis, but they're going to buy power on the market at the market rates. Whether Monterey Bay Community Power is buying for 50,000 customers, or King City and Pilot are buying for 4,000. The rates are going to be the market rates. You don't get economies of scale at that level, and so that's been bandied about a little bit, and that's not the case. There are economies of scale with what you can do from the money you derive, and Monterey Bay Community Power will derive a fairly substantial pool of revenue. Where we will garner 60,000 here, they will be gathering significant revenue from their residents, through the sale of the energy to the customers, and they can pool that to then turn that around into revenues. Yeah, I just want to answer those two questions.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Dennis whether it's a good thing for us to do or not, but I think we owe it to the residents to get all the information possible so that they can do a compare and they can see, is this really what we want, one or the other? And I think it's only fair, as I say, for you to all have all the information available, as well as I believe the council needs all the information available in order to make a decision also.
I want to ditto everything that's been said here, and I think that the presentation that the city manager gave was excellent. It was a very good review of what was said at the workshop. The PCIA is similar to like similar to what was going on with Cal-Am, that our rates went sky high because we used less water. And so the more we go to with the CCAs, you know, they're the ones that have to keep up with the infrastructure of all the power lines to deliver it all. And that's where you might get into PG&E raising those rates. Am I correct on that?
PG&E may charge us more, may charge the CCAs more
Right.
for the use of their infrastructure that they pay for over time, so that's right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So it's, to me, it's similar to what went on with the Cal-Am situation. Everybody's screaming bloody murder over the prices of Cal-Am water going up. So I think, you know, we need to, as a city council, I want to see the apples to apples. I want to see the city manager go out and look at what a contract would even look like. We have to compare, we have to look at it. We're not going to enter into any contract at this time right now. We need to look at the contracts, we need to compare them, we need to let you see them, and you know, we need to just kind of cool our jets and let's make sure that we make the right decision for Delray Oaks and for all the citizens here in Delray Oaks. There are Delray Oaks citizens that do not want to join the CCA. So we represent, and that was brought out at the workshop. There was a gentleman that showed up that did not. And I talked to several other residents. I walk the streets, they come out, they talk to me, and believe it or not, there are people that do not want to join the CCA. So we, as a city, represent all the citizens. We don't just represent you, we represent everybody, and I think we need to be fair to everybody and look at the contracts, look at it, and make an unemotional decision what's best for the city financially. We do not want to get we have worked. I guess I'm emotional about it because when I came onto the city council, we were bankrupt. We were bankrupt, folks. We had a parcel tax that was for that we all voted, and I moved into the city knowing this, that we had a parcel tax that paid for public safety because we couldn't afford it. And even with that public safety tax, we still didn't pay for the public safety part of it, the fire contract. So we were in the rears with Monterey Fire Department because we couldn't pay it. And so we have worked our bottoms off here to try and keep the city afloat. And I want you all to understand that this is not a light decision, and we are not going to get ourselves back into the situation that we're where we were before. So I'm emotional about making the right decision that we don't go bankrupt again. That's all I can say.
And just a brief comment, and I agree that it's a very complex issue, and I think it's become more complex now that there are multiple potential agencies to consider here. I just want to make sure that we do underscore and emphasize that ultimately this will go to the consumer and the ratepayer. And so I do think it's important as part of our our forum that we do have the opportunity to hear what the ratepayers and the consumers are hearing as well, because I think we're continuously learning up here. And we're starting to understand clearly the complexity of the issue, but I think it's very important to understand how it will be consumed at the end, because this would be something that goes out to all consumers.
Yeah, a couple comments. I attend a mayor's meeting every month where all the Monterey County mayors get together. When CCA was going around the various cities, one of the mayor's meetings, we're sitting there, a couple of mayors related, they won't be named, and said, I had no idea that if we joined the CCA, everybody was forced to join the CCA. They didn't read the contract, they didn't do anything, they just buckled up and just said, okay, we're going to join. Everybody else is joining, we're joining. We're about transparency, and all the comments were made up here before. We have a sacred duty to make sure the state does its best we can. We have to look at the contract, we need to gather facts. For me, all we're doing right now, if the council decides, we know what Monterey Bay Community Power Joint Powers Authority agreement is. We've seen it, we've read it. Our top-notch attorney's taken a look at it, he understands the toy. We have nothing right now from King City, not the bad mouth King City or whatever. We're in a negotiation process. Our city managers have been working very hard to try and find out what are the parameters, where do we want to go, how would we exit if we needed to, if all heck broke loose and so forth. We need to get the facts. So all we're doing tonight, if the council agrees, is to allow our city manager to get with King City, to get with Pilot Power, and come up with a contract that he thinks might be workable, or at least comparison with the Monterey Bay Community Power. And and then bring it back to the council for discussion and final vote one way or the other. Pat Littell came up to me earlier, and she was talking to some of our residents, probably somebody out here, and about, you want to see it on the website for a long enough time where you have a chance to actually look at it, we will do that. Okay, when the city manager, if the city manager comes up with a contract he thinks is viable, he wants to bring it before the council, and I agendize it based on his and the rest of the council's desire, we'll put it on the website for an extended period of time so everybody can see, here's Monterey Bay Community Power, here's King City Community Power, here are the advantages, disadvantages, we're going to discuss it and vote on it sometime in the future. But right now, we don't have the facts. So all we're looking right now is let's get the facts, let's look side by side in detail at what they look like, and what's best for Delray Oaks. That's what we're looking for. So enough said about that. Let's go out to the public. If you'd like to comment on this, you may. You've got 3 minutes max. Please state your name and rough location and where you are. We're looking not for emotion, we're looking for facts. And again, we're going to bring this back again whenever we get, if and when we get a contract that we think's viable, we'll bring it back and we'll have a chance to really discuss it at that time, pros and cons, and go from there. So if you'd like to make a comment now, the dais, the microphone's open. Anybody care, any comment from the public? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Abadi. I'm at 940 North Hill. I've been there about 2.5 years. I'm just encouraged by some of the things I heard up there today, in that you're waiting to see what is the best option for Delray Oaks. I would love to have the workshop that I attended to have King City representation there, because I think some residents had some questions specifically for King City, and all we had was a representative of Pilot Power. So hopefully there'll be a chance to maybe answer those kinds of questions. I keep hearing that you're thinking about going and asking to talk about a contract with King City and then compare it. Do we already have a potential contract from Monterey Bay Community Power? So we already have that in hand. That would be, okay, it sounds like we're only looking for one contract, and I was a little nervous. So I appreciate the fact that you're taking the time to get things side by side. Hopefully there'll be something that we know about PG&E at the same time, so all things can be considered. And I do appreciate all the time that you're putting into this. Thank you.
We are putting the time, I guarantee you're putting the time in. We have half the equation right now. The other half is a big question mark, and until we get both of them, we're looking at both sides. Not only, I'm sure, when we look through it with a fine-tooth comb, our attorney will look through it, and I'm sure everybody out there will look through it side by side, and together we will come up with the best decision, the best solution for Delray Oaks. I promise you that. Other comments by members of the public with regard to this topic? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Sue Shirley. I'm at 4 Baxter Place. I'm here to voice my objection to Delray Oaks negotiating the contract with the King City Pilot Power for the following reasons. And I just want to state that I was at the workshop and I did do my homework. The Delray Oaks City Council has ignored the support that was given to Monterey Bay Community Power as an energy provider when it first came up. There were over 200 signatures gathered in support of using this nonprofit local energy provider that has a proven track record in providing renewable energy to the peninsula. So in some ways we feel ignored. King City Pilot Power is only giving back 0.5% to citizens, and the rest of the rebate is going to the city, with no word as to how that money would actually be spent. Alternatively, the citizens could be getting 3 to 5% rebate from the Monterey Bay Community Power, so that's money back to us. The City of Delray Oaks has effectively chosen to take our money without giving the citizens a choice, a voice, or a vote. Third, I don't trust the King City City Council, nor frankly do I trust our own City Council to set an energy mix and rate that would align with where we should be headed in the future in order to meet our demands for reducing greenhouse gases and slowing climate change. South County is a pro-fossil fuel area, and our own mayor has not only participated in pro-fracking commercials, but also known as a climate denier. I can't imagine that this mix of views will create a thoughtful energy mix that meets our needs. Fourth, at the end of the summer or beginning of fall, again, the California Public Utility Commission will be implementing an exit fee, that's that PCIA. With King City Pilot Power being new in the CCA market, they have not shown that they would be well equipped to cover a large PCIA fee, thereby creating a risk for our involvement with them. On the other hand, Monterey Bay Community Power already is anticipating this fee and has money set aside for that potential cost. Even with all these concerns and after talking with council members and talking with Del Rio public, I'm afraid you will not listen and continue to move forward with negotiations. If that's the case, I implore the city council to remain transparent with their negotiated contract with King City Pilot Power and give the citizens an opportunity to view it. And I know you stated you would do that, and I appreciate that. I'd like to be able to participate in discussing it, and lastly, show us that all of us can be critical thinkers while taking into considerations of your constituents. Please show us that you care more about the views of the citizens and our climate for our future generations, instead of always looking for increased influence, power, and money. Thank you.
Excellent.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to gather facts. Clapping is inappropriate activity. I'd ask if we do it again, we'll take a 10-minute break, and I'd like to get home early tonight, please. We're not using emotion, we're using facts. We're hearing what you have to say, and basically that's it. So please, if you would, city manager has a response.
Just that I appreciate the comment, and I think there's a bit of confusion about the rates that are going to be charged. The 3% rebate and the price that Pilot Power and the city have negotiated are virtually the same when it comes to what you're going to pay on your bill.
Right, if there wasn't a rebate the rebate's bigger for Monterey Bay Community Power.
Right, it's just a different way of structuring the fee. The cost to you is the same.
Right,
And I'm going to ask, I'm just going to,
Under Robert's rules, there's a certain protocol. I'm responsible for the board. If you had a chance to speak, he's answering you. We will stay after the meeting. We can talk to you for hours if you want. I have no problem with that. But we have to maintain protocol.
it's just a really important point, and what I'd like to do is ask Mr. Vermette to discuss the costs. And that'll help set it straight for all of us, I hope.
Thank you. Just to be clear on the 3%. So it's 3% on the generation component. Go back to Monterey Bay's website. They have the rate sheet. You can calculate what PG&E's cost is, generation cost is, and Monterey Bay's generation cost. It's a 3% reduction. What King City is offering to its consumers is a reduction on the entire bill. The entire bill includes generation, PCIA, distribution, and transmission. You're not getting those discounts at Monterey Bay. So Dino is correct in that the overall discount, if you go apples to apples, it is almost virtually the same. Also, I just want to make clarification on PCIA. It is reviewed every single year. So it's a moving target. If you're waiting for a decision to be made, you're going to be waiting again the following year because the decision is going to be made again. Each public utility in the state of California has its own PCIA. When you depart from the utility, and this is in direct access as well as in CCA, is termed as a vintage, and so you've locked in your PCIA component, and you will not be recalculated into that number. So we've actually got customers. Pilot has been around since 2001. We have customers from the beginning of the deregulation market in California that pays zero PCIA because, and regardless of what happens, at the PUC and the decision's been made to increase it, they're not impacted because their vintage is so old that they're no longer impacted by it. So ultimately, Marin, which is the first CCA, their vintage, goes back 6-7 years. They're pretty much going to be done with their PCA in roughly 3 to 4 years. So that's how the PCIA works. And the PCIA specifically is actually for the generation component because the utilities procure energy on behalf of all its territory. You have departing load with either direct access or CCA, and so the PCA is in essence to try to levelize that for it. And then one final comment on distribution and transmission. So those are infrastructure, both CCA and if you go with CCA or if you stay with utility, you pay the same rates. Those are tariff rates. They're exactly the same. It's 2 sections on the bill. So it doesn't matter if you're CCA or with utility. If you're saying you're paying the exact same thing, the utility can't charge the CCA a different rate. They can't do it. This is,
Thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you.
And just before I go back to public comment, the bottom line that I really wanted, the takeaway here is this, if this comes back, if we're able to reach something that deserves to be brought back to this council, you will have a side-by-side comparison in a period of time to review it. I mean, there is no other course of action.
Any other members of the public who should address the council on this item?
Allison Kirk, 12 Robertson Place. I just want to go on record that you allowed King City or Pilot Power to discuss this, where you shut Monterey Bay Community Power off from doing the similar kind of thing about a year ago. So at the time, the argument was that we needed to have a balanced conversation. We're not having a balanced conversation here, okay? First and foremost. Secondly, the PCIA is being looked at by the CPUC, and they're anticipating a judgment in the fall, this fall, about this current CPUC and PCIA calculation. This decision needs to be, we need to wait until that decision is made before any further movement goes forward. That will, we talked about an existential threat to the city with Monterey Bay Community Power. This is above and beyond whatever was in the JPA and anticipating leaving an organization. So I strongly urge you to wait on any forward movement until that PCIA decision has been made. And additionally, another point that Stephen made was we need to have a public workshop involving the King City Council. That's who we're going to be dealing with, right? You will be dealing with Pilot Power. But again, it's not a fair comparison. There's a lot of talk right now about having fair comparisons, and I'm not seeing that happen. So I strongly urge you to do that. Last note is I want to provide some clarity on how the citizens are enrolled, okay? So generally, CCAs usurp PG&E for all of the ratepayers. We have about 860, including businesses and residential. And at that point, everybody goes on it. We all have the option to opt out. It's as simple as going to a website, making a phone call, I don't want to be a part of, we go back to PG&E, everybody's done. At the workshop, there were 10 dedicated people that were there, right? We all took time out of our evening to come and listen to something that was important to us. So I want you to value the time that we come and the time that we spend also looking at these situations and concerns for us. So out of that 860, it has been noted that if we have 20% less people, right, so if only 80% continue to opt in, it is not a viable organization. If you look at the numbers, we have 200 people that voted to not participate in this and to participate in Monterey Bay Community Power. That is over the 20%. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else wishing to address this issue to the council? Yes, sir.
Kevin Raskoff, Chief Police. Comment to the Vice Mayor about the 200 people that signed that petition that was just referenced. I feel like there's a bit of a false dichotomy that's being talked about here. I don't doubt that you run across people on the street or walks that are not in favor of any CCA, regardless of who's providing it. But we have over 200 people that signed a petition in a couple of days from a few people walking around that said they wanted to be part of the Monterey situation. So you do not have the other, right, population of Delray Oaks that is signed on with Pilot Power or anything else. You have a few pieces of information from real people that you really talk to that perhaps have concerns about CCAs. At the very least,
something that our Tri-County area, the Santa Cruz, San Benito County, Monterey County, all the cities except King City and Delray Oaks have found through signing on that they support this. It's already bringing in money and putting together, I guess you could say, a war chest in a way for any sort of unpredictable things that could happen. But one of the things that I want to just ask about is, as you're looking to minimize risk, you have Monterey Bay Community Power with an enormous amount of buying power and all these governments supporting it. So there's a real investment in making this successful. And then you have the option of going with the King City Community Choice Aggregate with a company supporting it that hasn't done this yet. So this will be their first time, and it strikes me as that is a risk that we need to consider as well. That we have Tom Hibachi running Monterey Bay Community Power with a tremendous track record. I thought it was very impressive when he was here answering questions and his definite knowledge. But I think that it's also really important to think about building capacity for improved energy sources that are renewable and that don't tax our environment. Climate change, in my opinion, is one of the most important issues facing our current generation and will definitely increase in its importance. So when you have something like Monterey Bay Community Power and you have all of these counties and all of these municipalities behind it, and you take that money, they will be able to use that to, and this is one of their intentions, is to build more capacity to produce renewable resources right here in our county. That's going to mean high quality jobs for the people that live in this county. It's going to mean that we have that we are producing energy that is carbon free, that has an impact on our county for decades to come. And I think it's very important that we don't isolate ourselves and that we become part of this. So I ask you to please consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Chuck Agrodati, 864 Portola. So first of all, Dennis, I want to applaud you for starting off the discussion. I am in 100% complete agreement. Is that I don't think it's time to make any decision. I don't think anything can be qualified quite yet until we have all the facts. And so that's something that I would encourage all of us to kind of abide by, or at least wait for. Allison, you make an excellent point. We should wait until we understand, or until some decision this year has been made on PCIA. The question that I have is that given any of the agreements, whether we go down the road with Monterey Bay Community Power or King City, when would those be executed? That would, at what time? And as I understand it, for both, it wouldn't be until 2019. So, as I see it, we have plenty of runway to kind of figure out and make the best decision on this. I don't think that we need to get riled up yet, on which way to go until, well, at least certainly until 2018. So we have plenty of time to do that. So in that vein, I would just kind of ask that we just quietly, we actually, I would encourage the council to approve the opportunity to at least negotiate, or at least get to see the contract from King City, so that we can gain the facts. We do a rack and stack, we compare them. I would also hope that council would put the two agreements together, and then post that, and then let us make kind of a fact-based decision based on the best terms for this city. And that's it.
Thank you, sir. Any other comment? Yes, sir.
Well, my name is Vera, I work at 45 Work Avenue. So thank you for this discussion. I was not able to attend the workshop on power, unfortunately I had work. But I did want to find out a little bit more about it tonight, that's why I'm here. And I do understand some of the different perspectives and certainly the work to get the city out of bankruptcy. I appreciate that. I am concerned though mainly about the mix of renewable powers in the different agreements and what we're going to look at. And I'm concerned that the focus of keeping the city out of bankruptcy will become a lens that you are viewing it through. And that's not necessarily the most important lens when we think about it. Of course, it's very important, but I think it can skew the way that you may be viewing those things. And so I really do appreciate what you're working towards, but I think the mix of renewable power is really important here. And I'm a little concerned that we might be a little bit short-sighted in this. And so I will just appreciate that when you're looking at these contracts.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
My name's Regenza from Cedar Road. I was out of town for that workshop, so sorry I missed that. My question is, you have these two potential options. When you do the side-by-side comparison, can you also somehow put PG&E as well? So we have, instead of 2 columns, we have 3 columns. Because I know if you look at it, as you just mentioned, strictly through a fiscal lens, we have to also take into consideration everything else. So 3 columns, 1 for each, and then it's not just about the money, it is about our quality of life here. So I think we have maybe other things that will, if you're talking about $60,000 a year in terms of potential, I think that was a number that was mentioned, that would come back to the city. There could potentially be many other ways to bring $60,000 back to the city that isn't impacted by this, or can come from many other sources. So again, to not look at this strictly through a financial lens. And also try to extrapolate down the road. I don't know enough about power, the power industry, and how PG&E, what their with their overhead, and I know we're still paying for things like, that they have their issues with running their business, with fires, with power lines. I don't know anything about it. All I know is I get my bill, and I'd like to have all the facts. And again, also, there is no rush. I don't think, unless I miss something, we're not in a hurry. We don't have a deadline, so let's make a really good decision.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to council. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I didn't see it. I'll put my glasses on.
So my name is Miriam Giovanni, and I just wanted to say really quickly that although you guys mentioned the concern for Del Rio's having less of a say on the community investment aspect because we have all of the other city councils, Monterey Bay Community Power has policy and operations boards and a citizen advisory council with elected and dedicated community members who have a record of concern for environmental issues.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments? Got my glasses on. Okay, come back to the council. Final comments, entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the city staff, the city manager, to negotiate a potential CCA with King City so we can carry that to our interactions. Would you affirm the amendment showing both PG&E, Monterey Bay Community Power, and then King City Community Power, and then also will be displayed as long as possible? Anything else that we can?
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second.
Yes.
Any discussions on the motion? Yes,
I do wanted to say discuss a little bit that there are other options with PG&E. You can't get fully 100% renewable energy through PG&E, and I believe there's a resident on Rosita who also is getting 100% renewable energy from another company. So there are other means of getting renewable energy right now. For all of you people that want it right now, should really look into that because it's important to you. So I urge you to look into those other places. And then They're solar panels.
And just to back up what the city right now is on PG&E Solar Choice, we're 100% solar in the city. So all the energy that we use in the city comes from PG&E Solar Choice, for whatever it's worth, Councilman London.
Sure, and this will be, one of my last opportunities to comment on this topic, but, I do think it's important as we're talking through the alternatives here. I think the discussion here tonight was the right one. We need to have continuing transparency. I think, staff has brought it as far as they can at this point. I think we have a lot of risks that need to be continued to be evaluated. Now, I think the one I want to emphasize us to keep thinking about as we talk about the issue is the risk of consumer confidence. Because the biggest risk to the success of these programs, beyond everything else, is whether or not people either choose to remain in or affirmatively opt out. And if they choose to affirmatively opt out, the most airtight contract, et cetera, will not be successful because the business itself won't be successful. So I just want to offer, because what I'm hearing, too, from the consumers out there is it's not just the risk, but it's also the mix. It's also where the dollars go. It's not just that there's a dollar savings. And so what I really encourage us to do is, and I've heard this said clearly, that we'll bring it back to for either workshop, we'll do the comparisons. One tool I observed working very well on a similarly complex topic was Ambag. What they do is they take a matrix, they summarize all public comments and provide a response to each of those for their major initiatives. And also I think it's important for consumers to remember that legislators, as council members create policy. You can influence what this policy looks like. You can have a say in specifically how those dollars are used. You can ask that it be specifically earmarked for certain purposes. We've heard that as a concern from people. So, and then the last point I'd like to make is, we're hearing that concerned whether or not there's favoritism towards one path or another. What I'd simply ask us to do is when we bring it back to council, bring all of the different options out for motion rather than single motion. That way we can have an affirmative up down on each of the potential options. Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor and a second. Discussion's over. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Listen, thanks everybody for bringing very valuable comments. This will be brought back. City manager will get the information and we will see it. We'll put it on the website and we will have a long and nice discussion with three alternatives and we'll find out what's best for Del Rios. Okay? It's not appropriate. We will be here after the meeting, but we're almost done right now. We'll be here after the meeting. If you want to discuss anything, we'll be around to do it. Okay, next we have correspondence. Then we're going to closed session. I'm sorry, forgive me. We now have public comment. Any member of the public, forgive me, I thought this was any member of the public can address the council on any item not on the agenda. So the CCA is the agenda, so anything outside of the CCA, you've got 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to express my gratitude to Councilman Buckley for his time serving on the council. They've always find his questions and rationale for his votes thoughtful and well-reasoned. I particularly appreciate his votes on honoring Green Park. I wish you and your family the best. That said, every council seat is critical to our well-functioning democratic government. To ensure that the Del Rio citizens have the right to the makeup of our elected officials, I ask that you hold a special election for his seat. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment? Any item on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, public comment period closed. Correspondence, we have none. We have a short closed session as permitted by Government Code 54956. Second, council may adjourn to a closed session to consider specific matters dealing with certain litigation, personnel, or labor, real property negotiations. We will be discussing an update on anticipated litigation, significant exposure to and initiation of litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9, subparagraph 2, D2, one case. Before we go in there, does any member of the public wish to address the council on this closed session item? Okay, seeing none, we are now going to, Joe, before you go, again, thank you for showing up, thank you for taking your time, I know you've got other things to do, we appreciate the input. We're better towns and a better city for it. We are now adjourned, we'll reconvene and reconvene. Thank you. I'm sorry, City Attorney,
Thank you, Mayor. Council has provided an update regarding one item of anticipated litigation, but no reportable action was taken.
Thank you very much.